Okay.
Call to order. Good evening. I now call our 43rd meeting of the Jacksonville Environmental and Appearance Advisory Committee to order. I want to welcome everyone to our meeting. At this time, I'd like to recognize our council liaison, Ms. Angelina Washington. We thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And staff liaison, Mr. Glenn Hargett, who's
We're here to serve.
irreplaceable.
No.
Yes, you are.
That's for sure.
Are there any other guests that are not speaking that should be recognized?
We will also mention Lily Gray, our Director of Community Engagement. who
Yeah, hi, Lily.
Hi.
also
The one that gets
serves
us around.
as- serves as staff to this committee also.
Yeah, she's great. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm Edward Blizzard and serve as the chair for this committee. If everyone else would please introduce themselves, starting down this way.
Oh, Oxy Keys member.
Sunshine Williams, I've been reinstated, thank goodness, to everyone. I appreciate it very, very much.
I'm Betty Scheffelbein, member. Grace Halberg, member, past chairman.
Lily Gray,
Gray, Community Development.
Yolanda Henry.
Yolanda Henley.
And this is Pat Donovan Brandenburg, who will introduce more formally in a few moments.
Okay, every committee member is asked to update their contact information and to correct any necessary information the city has on file. This time, we'd like to adopt the agenda. Members should review the agenda and consider the adoption of the agenda before proceeding. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, motion to
Mo-
adopt.
Motion to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Minutes from the August 2nd meeting are provided for your consideration. Hopefully you had a chance to review those. Do I have a motion to adopt, correct, or reject the minutes as appropriate?
A motion to adopt. Second.
And a second. Motion and accepted. Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Good. All those opposed? Say nay. Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved. The official attendance report is provided on page 9, which must be submitted to the clerk each month. Should there be a mistaken report, please let the staff know as soon as possible. City ordinance requires automatic removal for certain absences. It is now time for our presentation for this meeting. I'm going to turn over the introduction of this item to staff liaison Glenn Hargett.
Well, certainly the people in this room know Pat Donovan Brandenburg, but you might have noticed that we're using another word at the end of this long name that she has, and we're very happy that she has been recently married, and so very pleased with that. You also had her son here at the last meeting to speak to you about his project with commercial recycling, and so those are good things. What you might not remember is that since 1998, though, she's been a part of the restoration efforts for the New River and came to work with the city after that project closed down as a funded enterprise and came to work with the city. And so since that time, she's been the stormwater manager and water quality and really habitat protection is what she really does. And so tonight, she's going to talk a little bit about stormwater and water quality, and she'll mention a couple of things about the effect of Florence just in passing and such there too. So we introduce to you Pat Donovan Brandenburg.
Thank you for allowing me to participate each year. I appreciate it. I don't know about being on the backside of a hurricane though, so there was a lot of water with that one. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. We actually have 6 groups that have adopted certain segments of cleaning up the tributaries as well as the main portion of the New River. Our latest group actually came to us from White Oak High School. It was a high school environmental teacher, Brandon, and he has a huge following of environmental students, huge following, and they are cleaning up the swamp area over off of Piney Green, near the actual high school. They've got over an acre. Each one of these groups clean an acre or more, and they report to us quarterly. We also, last year, stream cleanups were very important. It looks like we get to start all over. We had 29 cleanups last year, about 307 participants. This is including high school students as well as adults through the New River Roundtable. Jim Wheeler, I can never ever sing his praises enough. He is the most dedicated person I've ever seen, very passionate about keeping the environment clean. The city's very blessed to have him. Since he's been with us 6 years, I believe now, he's at his 8,000th 55-gallon bag of trash. And believe it or not, we were very concerned because right after the hurricane, he was out there cleaning up just as hard as he could. And we were trying to tell him to come in and be safe, that the waters were still flowing pretty heavily. And he said, I actually paddled over some of the bridges instead of under the bridges. And I was like, wasn't that your first clue? And so he actually got a lot of trash, though, bless his heart. The Lord keeps him safe. Another thing that we have been battling a lot lately is alligator weed. Because of the amount of rain that we had last year as well as this year, the mats seem to be getting bigger instead of smaller. So the state as well as the city continually sprays. The hard part, is it untimed? The hard part basically is you have to have, I'm not doing it.
I know.
You have to have at least 48 hours of dry weather so that it doesn't take the herbicide off of the plant and put it into the water, thus killing your invertebrates. So a 48-hour window during the summertime is almost non-existent because it seemed to have rained every day. But
What makes the alligator weed grow so much?
because there's a lot of nitrogen in the water.
Okay.
And it's an invasive, and it doesn't have any natural predators. There's nothing that eats it. We used to get flea beetles, but that was a number of years back. They're actually running out of them in the Everglades. They used to have so many that they would ship them up to us if we asked in cartons, but they're running out of flea beetles to battle their own alligator weed problem that they couldn't ship it out. We didn't get any last year or this year. I'm hopeful that maybe this next year we'll be able to add some predation. They're the only known critters. It's a little tiny beetle, really small, but very cute. Inspections is a major part of our daily routine, whether we're inspecting the 7 miles of city BMPs or best management practices, or also known as stormwater control measures. These are ponds, wetlands, swells, sand filters. The city has a lot of different apparatuses. We also are inspecting all of the commercial development that had to put something in that captured and treated their stormwater. We inspect those monthly as well to make sure that they're working properly. We were very fortunate, and we received quite a few environmental grants last year. One we will see right across from City Hall starting. They actually are putting the signage up in Bayshore Estates today. We're going to be taking out one side of the road, the impervious surface area, and expanding the rain garden over, but also putting in a nice sidewalk so people that are coming out of the neighborhood that may be walking to the post office or to City Hall will have a sidewalk to walk on as well. We also got some money to put in some sets, which I'll talk about just a minute. From Sea Grant, we got some funding from the federal 319 grant for 2 new VMPs in the Bryn Mawr shopping area where there's a lot of old impervious surface area. And then we've gotten some funding to help with the new city marina down off of Kerr.
When she says BMP, she means stormwater control
Measure, correct. The SETS stands for surface elevation tables. These were installed, 3 of them in the constructed wetlands directly around Sturgeon City. We also put 3 across the river in some natural wetlands. And what we're looking at is what will happen to inland wetlands if we have sea level rise or any type of climate change. This also will tell us whether it's rising in the river over time or at the same. And I think based on the backside of Florence, that's going to be very important data. We had not had any tables in inland waters. They, as you can see by the yellow and green dots, most of them were placed along your coastal barrier islands. And what they were monitoring is how well will the coastal wetlands keep up if sea level rises or changes. But we asked the question, well, that's fine and dandy for the coastal barrier islands, but what about all the municipalities that are up some type of watershed throughout the state of North Carolina? Wouldn't it be equally as important to find out what kind of impacts might happen there? And so they've actually installed several others in inland areas, and that's why they're white, is because they're less than 4 years old. We take readings twice a year, every year, on the amount that the wetlands are either sinking or rising. And the Wilson Bay sign is still there. The boardwalk made it. There was a time during Florence we weren't sure it was there. It was completely submerged. So is the sign, but the sign is still there. So our facilities maintenance did a great job in installing it because it stayed. You probably have also heard about the Oyster Highway project. That was the newest project that we have been working on this past year. We got a lot of private donations from the North Carolina Wildlife Habitat Foundation, which is based in Greensboro. We also, God bless Senator Harry Brown, he has put a lot of money into the state budget from the Senate towards the project, as well as we've got another grant or donation from CCA, which is our fishing community in the Onslow area. The Oyster Highway project is where we're building 6 half-acre oyster reefs in the middle portion of the river, where all of the natural habitat or natural hard substrate was covered up over the last 50 years with soft organics. And what we're doing is putting the hard substrate back with oysters, so that the oysters can continue to improve water quality for decades to come for the city. As always, something that's very important with stormwater is always education. Just when you think you've talked to everyone, you turn around and you haven't. So we do participate in National Night Out. If the participants stood in front of us up to 3 minutes and allowed us to talk about stormwater educated, they were counted. If they just came up and asked a single question, or if they just took some of our brochures, then they weren't counted. So 703 was a very high number for us. We were very happy with the participation. Our partner, our forever partner, is Sturgeon City, our environmental and educational center. We get a lot of our educational numbers that I actually count towards our stormwater permit. That's required. Yearly numbers I get from Sturgeon City. The whole 5th grade curriculum has stormwater as one of the components. And so when a 5th grade class comes to Sturgeon City, we actually pull out the EnviroScapes and we educate the classes about stormwater, water quality, the city of Jacksonville, the partnership between the city of Jacksonville and Sturgeon City, and why Sturgeon City is there to remind us of where we used to be versus where we're going. We're very excited about the new building that's going to be opening soon, hopefully soon. Considering that almost 9,000 students went through Sturgeon City last year, can you imagine what we're going to do with a building that holds 450? The possibilities are going to be endless. We're very excited.
When she mentions EnviroScapes, those that might not know, if you want to go to that next, go back one slide.
Oh, sorry.
That's that device that you see under the 703 there. It's a little town that's been created, and they actually rain upon it to show what happens with stormwater runoff. And it really brings home the message about surface runoff and unintended pollution.
And we've been using those for 10 years. It's a
We got a grant for that a long time ago.
long time ago. And something else that Jim Wheeler brought to our attention was before the hurricane, thank goodness, is there were a lot of downed trees through the years that were blocking a lot of our culverts. And most of us would not know that. If it wasn't for Jim cleaning up the streams, we might not have seen that. So between Jim, the Stormwater Water Quality Department, and our Streets Department, all of these strainers were removed prior to Hurricane Florence. Had they not been, I'd hate to think of where additional flooding might have occurred. So now that Actually, we need to go back and do it again because I think with all the down tree limbs and branches, they're probably right back. So just job security for all of us. We'll go back and clean them again. So, and then a wonderful thing is the city's media services helped stormwater water quality with the state put together a video, an educational video that is actually going to be presented to our incoming legislation on facts about stormwater and why it's important and that it should be viewed as a utility, as an asset, meaning all of the 90 miles worth of stormwater pipes, the 80 miles worth of stormwater ditches, all have to be maintained every year, just like all the water lines for our drinking water or all the sewer lines for the sewage plant. It's all a utility and needs to be viewed that way. So media services actually put a lot of shots in the state stormwater video from Jacksonville, and that is just coming out now, so you might see it on general TV as well. Illicit discharges, I'm happy to say every year the number goes down. When we first started 20 years ago, we were in the 160 a year range, and each year it seems to decrease by about 10. So I'm hoping that stormwater education and outreach is probably the reason why, because we were only at 54 last year. All 54 were mitigated. All 54 sites were cleaned up. Our fire department is phenomenal. When they get there on site, they know the first thing is to try and keep it from going down a storm drain, because that cleanup becomes twice as expensive as it does. So the fire department's doing a great job as well. And that's just a yearly update of our stormwater water quality program. It's not a standalone program. It works with all the other departments. The city is one big network. One couldn't exist without the other. But if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I'm glad you guys are here. This is a great committee. I enjoy presenting each year. Thank you for all that you do.
And thank you, Pat, for your presentation. Evidently, it was so thorough, we don't have any questions.
Well, she is the method that we educate the public and to educate the students. And as you said, that fifth grade with that stormwater component through Sturgeon City, that is really important. And without that, there's no way the city could have the numbers that it has. And as she mentioned, there is a permit the city gets from the state to discharge our stormwater into the river. Otherwise, you'd be penalized, number one. Number two, it's where would you put it? But you have to go through this work. And the number one item is education, of letting people know the unintended purposes of pollution and try to avoid those things. This is like when you see someone sweeping their clippings into the storm drains. And Ms. Sunshine has called us about a few people that did that, and her crew goes out and counsels them and talks about them. And later, when we talk about some clean and green moments, that's one that we might want to bring to point to have these folks talk about that one as it was too.
Education is the key to anything, and when you start at a young age, it stays with them. So.
Absolutely. And if you happen to see anything, especially, anything going into a storm drain that shouldn't be going into a storm drain, please call us or get up with Glenn, and Glenn can contact us, because getting to them while it's occurring is the most important key to educating everyone that may work for that company that's not allowed.
Or just call City Hall, people like Yolande that help us on
Miss Lily?
they know how to get it there. They know how to get up with them.
Absolutely.
Now, do they come out occasionally and clean out the storm drain?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know, like in our neighborhood, we got lots of leaves and pine straw, and even though I go out there and clean our grates whenever it rains.
And we appreciate that.
It's always
That-
building up.
That's a very good thing to do, and to take those leaves and put them somewhere else, because you can tell places
neighbor's yard.
where they are, where they don't have that, and it floods. I mean, that's the other part of it. Not only is it polluting, but it's the flood that happens.
Well, if our grate gets covered up, then it backs up into our yard, so. Our neighbor's
Demonstration.
physically incapable of doing it anymore, so we go out there and keep that drain clean, because it's
That's-
in his yard.
That's one of right after the hurricane, even though City Hall was closed on Monday, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, street sanitation, stormwater, water quality, that's all we did. We went to all the neighborhoods and cleaned all of the storm drains so that if we got any more rains afterwards, it didn't cause additional flooding. But literally for 3 days, that's all we did, was clean the storm drains
But during the year, they do it on a
on a regular
regular
basis.
basis. Okay.
And you'll see before we know that it's a big rain, streets will go out and work on cleaning storm drains and stuff because it's just important to do.
But when you have between 9 and 10,000 of them just within city limits, it's an enormous task.
That's why we appreciate your help doing your neighborhood. And if you want to go do other neighborhoods.
Oh, I can provide you with a map.
I'm sure you could.
Thank
I
you,
don't
Pat.
I don't
Thank
have a
you.
question, but
Yes, ma'am.
in the area where we live, you talked about the drains, there's one on this side, one on that side, and all the way in the back of our area, there is those drains that we try to keep cleaned up. And it's very hard, and we don't see anyone come in to help. We're constantly doing that.
Well, if you, not now, but if you give us your address, we'll try and put it make sure it goes back on a list if it got, dropped off. The problem is with everyone putting all of their down limbs and branches and whole trees, is you're supposed to put it back of curb, not in the street and not in the gutter line. And unfortunately, that's
do
where
it.
I see a lot of it. And so when cars run over it, the wind causes it to go farther down, and eventually it ends up on top of the storm drains again, even though we just spent 3 days cleaning them. So if you see it, let us know. We'll go back.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay,
Got it.
moving on. The planning committee, subcommittee did not meet.
Well, actually,
did.
I
They did.
apologize that they met just moments ago.
Oh, okay. Go on then, Linda, I guess. Or go
Linda's
on.
not here.
I'll
be
Grace is
doing
gonna-
it.
You'll be doing it?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Grace, go ahead.
Yes, we met and we spoke about, we're going to Country Club Villas Neighborhood Cleanup, Saturday, October 20th at 8 o'clock. And our annual Sanitation Appreciation Breakfast, Tuesday, November 20th at 7:30. And the Parks and Code Enforcement Appreciation Breakfast, Wednesday, December 19th at 7:30. And both of these are very well deserved because they are working very hard to get our community back in a good state. We are working on producing a clean and green tip of the month, so hopefully that will be coming up.
And Pat's agreed to work with you all on that, too.
Awesome.
Whatever you need.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Recognition Subcommittee, Mr. Hargit.
Well, to the end there, obviously, Betty is here, and Gina is the chairman of this, as it was, and Grace has been helpful in this matter. They have such a backlog that we haven't gotten all the recognitions done, and of course, our alphabetically named visitors there, the most recent of which was Florence, the meeting of the city council that we were going to do 3 recognitions at, so. We'll reschedule those. The next regular meeting is October 16th, I think it is, isn't it 16th? Anyway, it's the 3rd one. So we'll get from there. But we still encourage you to go forward with that. At your last meeting, we gave you some potential dates for the tour. Well, 2 of those dates have fallen off of the availability for getting vehicles and doing some things. So right now, the one date of the 3 that we had proposed is this December 12th. At 4:30. Now, it's a Wednesday. Hopefully, you folks can still come as it was there, but that worked for us last time. So, and we seem to have a lot of fun out there on that trip.
I had to play catch up.
It was there. So if you'll put that, we'll take all these dates that the planning committee gave and everything, and we'll get those out to you in a little summary email to you also.
Yeah, that gives the folks a chance to put up their holiday lights and everything, and we'll go be impressed as always. Okay, one city moment, who would like to speak to that?
Well, I will do that.
Okay,
Number one, we want to talk about something that happened today. This was the Onslow Civic Affairs Committee has made a plea for people to put up yellow ribbons for the families and survivors of the Beirut bombing. Obviously, October 23rd is a date that is extraordinarily important to us in this community. And so they're asking for businesses and residents to put them out as it was. And so today they held a news conference and they put some stuff around and wanted to show this is the youth council previously had made these bows as it was. So, you know, kind of ready and willing to go on the matter there. And the bows will be put, well, let me rephrase this. I left out an important part of this. As Ms. Williams and others know, on the day of the bombing, the group, the Beirutification and Appearance Commission met and decided they would do the memorial tree program for each of the men who died. That next morning, some classes at Northwoods Park Junior High, that it was at the time, decided they would help raise money. And Martha Warren's class, who's still around, as we all know, and very active as she is. And so Northwoods Park Middle School has kind of lost some connection to that. You know, they have done that. So this summer, we reconnected with the school, and they were ecstatic about doing this. Now, Florence messed everything up. They were supposed to start making the bows. They were going to make 300 bows starting on the 13th, and we all know what we were doing on the 13th, staring down very high-speed winds. And so tomorrow, they'll be, the Beta Club is joining together, and they're going to actually make the 300. We could use some adult volunteers, by the way, for that, if you want to come and help. We'll give more details of that after the meeting. But they want to keep that effort to continue the pledge to never forget and to learn that. Ron Bauer is going to give a little presentation on the history of what happened and the importance that it was to the Marine Corps as well as to this community. And that story will be told before they start making the ribbons, as it was. So we're going to also, on the October 18th, be taken to the Beirut Memorial Grove and put the ribbons on the trees. And so we don't know exactly because, as you know, they've announced yet the next school's not going to be next week. And there's a lot of predictions about whether it may not be until November that school goes back into session. So that's, you know, it is what it is. But we'll get those ribbons put on the trees one way or the other. And the parents have been very supportive of the Beta Club people to come out and bring them out and do things like that as it was. So we'll be putting them up here at City Hall and other places, and we hope that you all will follow suit in your businesses and in your homes also, as it was there. Think what it will look like if New Bridge Street had yellow ribbons all up and down, you know, welcoming families back and things such as that as it was. Wow. So that's one city moment. The other one I want to talk to you about is something some of you were involved in also, and that was the 9/11 Patriot Day observance. Here we were. Florence was coming in on 9/11, as you know. I mean, a lot of things were getting canceled. School had been canceled for the 12th and for 9/11 also. And so but the students decided they wanted to perform, and so parents brought them and they performed. And it was a nice event, and you know, it wasn't extraordinarily well attended, but it was nicely attended as it was. And I think that's because people were getting ready for the storms and things such as that as it was. But it didn't deter us from our duty to remember also that this community has and holds sacred for those that live among us who are our heroes and those who give their ultimate sacrifice. So that was the little quartet from Jacksonville High School, and one parent brought 3 of the students. Wow. So that really helped on the matter there. And you see Mr. Bittner was there, and Civic Affairs Committee, and of course the Order of Purple Heart, they are always on the front row, are they not, Betty? Miss Betty's in that crowd somewhere too. And Chief Williams, Captain Williams, who gives the prayer every year, very emotional prayer as it was. And we have Mr. Urbino. He was a police officer on duty on 9/11 in New York City, and he now works for the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps police. And he always likes to participate in this activity as it was. So that one city moment. And then the other ones, what happened in our community? And that was, the things that happened. And here on, that, shortly after those winds began, Triangle Motor Inn fell apart. And so our firefighters and others went and got them, and they had to get some little John boats to do things and get people out of there. And of course, the other boats were called into service as things went on with water rescue. Our police and fire and other folks stayed on duty. But right after the winds went down, our traffic division was out putting up those traffic lights, and people were there. And Onza Memorial had extra shifts and things such as that. And here's Pat's people saving fish because of the anaerobic material that washed into the bay. And then this picture on the left was sent to us through social media of people who were helping neighbors stop erosion that was right there on the New River. It was getting to be pretty bad. You could get free showers and air conditioning at Planet Fitness, and people appreciated that. And then the Marines at Camp Johnson went to work out there at the Lejeune Memorial Gardens quickly right after that. We like this picture because it's the angle of the beam is almost the angle of that tree. So it's a different place out there with fewer trees. And here's a thumbs up to some of the people when they see a city vehicle going by and helping to clean up. And we had a lot of people who have come in town to help. Samaritan's Purse was among the others. I saw the Billy Graham Crusade was in town, and they've done a lot of work in there. And Salvation Army and Red Cross, of course. Here's our parks crews out trying to help out in the Commons area. And, you can just see these trees after trees. This is our director of public services, Wally, there with, he was out with that's the city engineer behind him there on the matter. And he and Dr. Woodruff were on a cleanup crew that was out on the streets just making things happen. You could see it was a virtual carpet on those streets from all the fell materials as it was. And then also community outreach, an organization that was started as a result of some excess benevolence after the end of one Christmas, and now seeks to serve people with a soup kitchen, homeless shelter, free clinic, a dental clinic now, and other benevolent services. They turned their building into a distribution point, and it was really impressive what was happening with that. So much so that they could shut down the Red Cross truck because the Onslow Community Outreach kind of absorbed that need there in the effort as it was, and they were able to dispatch the truck to somewhere else to help out in the matter. And these folks from Kentucky, they came down, and of course through Catalyst Church, that church really put things out and really served a gazillion meals. This little supermarket-like setup that was there so where they could come in and get supplies and do things as it was. And this is Lily's church. They put a one city moment right that lived, and this is feet on faith, as it is, and very much impressive that happened here. I encourage you, if you want to look at the last city council meeting, and there's a 20-minute video that talks about things. And if you're like me, we didn't get to see any of the news coverage that was going on during that time. We've got a capsule of some of that news coverage. All the major networks were here. And Lily, here's your apostle with some great stuff there, and more at the Onslow Community Outreach as it was there. All the young people that were out to help and coming from other places and such there, all very impressive. Just think about the legacy of, we all remember the things we lost. I think they're going to think about Florence as things that they learned, to help others and do something. And at Lily's church there, that really said something, having that up as it was there. So that's one city report there. We thought that you might enjoy to see that as it was there too.
We cannot see that video, can we?
Say again?
Can we see that video?
We've got it available, but it's 20-some minutes. But why don't we play it at the end of the meeting for those that want to see that? Okay. Is that good? All right. If I might just go with other staff items, we wanted to talk about recycling. Obviously, the storm has affected some of that. The Sunoco was shut down, as a lot of places were. They had no power. The landfill didn't have power for a long time. But it's back up, and we're encouraging people to keep the clean recycling. Now, one word about the pickup. They are nearing the end of the first round now of pickup. And as of Monday, I don't have the numbers now, but the city had spent $1.6 million, or the bill is $1.6 million picking up all those items. You might have seen those trucks going around. That would be 5 cents on your tax dollars if not for the FEMA reimbursement. That's up to what Monday was. So we want to make sure we get the stuff drug out to the curb, not in the street, not over the storm drain, not on top of a fire hydrant, and in separate piles. The city will go around that. You're seeing a live shot right now from the Center for Public Safety on the side of the building where they take all that stuff to, and they grind it up into mulch, and it's being used for landfill and for disposal of animal carcasses at a site not here. But this is quite an impressive operation. We find people just stopping in the atrium to look at this and just see them come in. That high lift that you see, the scissor lift, that's people that are hired that document everything. In order to get the FEMA reimbursement, you've got to do it. So you'll see they take a picture of the full vehicle and they take a picture of the empty vehicle when it ends. And it's all being recorded and kept going there, and so that they have a record of what every one of them has brought there as it was. But enough had been collected by Monday that you could have filled up 6 football fields, 10 foot high, end zone to end zone. So, and that's a pretty impressive amount of stuff there.
Does the city carry insurance on those hazards so they get reimbursed for
Well, now,
those?
the FEMA will pay for
FEMA.
for this part of the disposal of this matter,
Okay, so
if
the
we do
city-
it correctly.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, there'll be other expenses the city will have to bear. We had some significant damage to some city buildings, and so
But
some
you
of
don't
that will
carry
be.
insurance?
They do carry insurance, but some of the insurance obviously won't pay all of it as it was. And
Okay.
just for instance, today, we found some equipment that had been damaged during the storm that we weren't aware of, so, they'll just be paid for and taken care of as it was. We lost the weather station on top of the bio tower at Sturgeon City and the camera up there, and so, it's stuff. It just happens.
Well, I noticed that.
But anyway, please encourage your neighbors to bring out the stuff that they have. A lot of people had been waiting for, insurance adjusters. That's why Ms. Henderson's not here. She had her insurance adjuster that was to show up this afternoon, and she was going to be there for it.
Right.
And so, but as soon as you can, bring it out, because basically by the end of November, the FEMA reimbursement will end. And so we'd rather have us do it there, because when we start doing it, we'll have to charge for big items, and things such as that, So the next thing, if I might, for you, sir, is that well, let's let you have the board member comments, and then we'll
Okay.
do the time of meeting.
All
Forgive
right,
me.
well, thank you thus far for what you did. And I do want to add my personal thanks for the city contracting those haul-away people, because they went down my street 3 times, and I had something for them each and every time. I lost 5 trees, 4 of them fell on my house, and just now kind of starting to get back to normal, So God bless
Thank
everybody that's helping.
Miss Washington and the council. They're the
Yes.
people that you
Thank you
thank.
so much. And I was handing out sodas and cold water to everybody. So glad to see everyone. Do any of the board members have any comments? Seeing none, did you catch
All
your
right.
breath?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Time of meeting. We had some discussion last time, and there was a proposal to move the meeting to 5:30. And you folks said you wanted to talk about it this time. Staff is here to serve you. We can do it at 5:30. We can do it at 6. It's your choice as to what you would like to have. The only reason we're asking for a decision is obviously we're getting ready to print the calendar for next year. And so consequently, we want to see something that we can do to put that in the calendar and have it there. And obviously, we publish the schedule all at once. So any comments that anyone wishes to make, and Mr. Chairman, that you all want to make a decision, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, does that impact anyone as far as other chores or meetings that you have to be at? Or can everyone be here at 5:30?
I like 6 because
Like
we
6,
have our
okay.
subcommittees at 5:30.
okay.
And if you get off work at 5, it gives you time to get here for that 5:30.
Valid point, yes. Kind of like what it was like tonight. Yeah, just made it under the wire. Okay, any other discussion?
I like 6.
How about, you like 6? All right. Can I get a motion to keep it at 6?
Well, you don't have to make a
you
motion
don't
to
have to
keep
make
it.
a motion?
No, you just let us know if you're going to
6 it
change it,
is.
we will have to do that. But we just
Well,
wanted to, we just
Obviously.
wanted to make sure that there was a discussion of that, because this is the time. And
Yes.
Lily will tell you, some boards made decisions to move things and do things, so we just want to give you, this would be the time to do that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can I say all in favor of keeping it at 6 o'clock? Say
You
aye.
can do that.
Okay. All right. All right. Democratically, we will keep it at 6.
What time does your store close?
Anything else from the board? Okay, I've reached the end of our agenda. I wish to remind everyone our next regular meeting is 6 p.m. Thursday, December 6th, right in this room. Our planned presentation is about environmental issues and police, our new street superintendent, and nominations for the Thanksgiving holiday decor recognition. Please check your calendar for the potential holiday lights tour for December 12th at 4:30. I'm sure Glenn will send us a heads-up email for that. Any other business? Without call for further business, I now adjourn this meeting and wish everyone safe travels.